Hi everyone, welcome back to Kidding Around. My name is Melanie Smith, and I think it is thoroughly thrilling that you are here with me today for another Thoughtful Thursday lesson. Today we are going to be doing a very simple but very impactful craft that will spread some kindness all around the world. Before we do that though, if you like what you're seeing here and want to follow along with all of Kidding Around's videos, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and below each video click the thumbs up. Also, if you really like what you're doing here, please share us with your friends. Thank you so much. All right, as I mentioned earlier, this is a very simple craft, but it really has a huge impact. So what you are going to be doing today is you are going to be decorating some clothespins with paint first, and then also you are going to be including a kind message on these clothespins. Then the hope is that when you are out and about, you are able to very sneakily, in a good way of course, attach these clothespins to people's backpacks or maybe the bottom of their jackets without them knowing. Then when they get home and they take off their backpack or they take off their jacket, they will find these fun clips attached to them, knowing that someone was trying to spread kindness to them. Alright, so to do this, you will need a few supplies. You will need some clothespins. You will need some acrylic paint in the colors that you choose. And then along with that, you will need a paint palette, some paint brushes, some water, some paper towels, some surface protection. And then you will also need a black Sharpie pen, or I guess it doesn't have to be black, but you want it to be very fine tipped. And I have found that Sharpie works better than some of the other Flair pens. It just seems like Sharpie keeps from bleeding when you write on your message. With some of the other pens, I found that it would kind of bleed, and so it would be hard to read. So Sharpie seems to work the best, at least for me. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. There's not much to this, like I mentioned. The first thing that you are going to do is paint your clothespins. So this, you can choose any color or any design that you want. Here on these two, you can see that they are very simple. I just painted one color. I think on the ones that we do together, I'm going to try to paint a little bit more of a design or a pattern, but ultimately it is up to you. So this paint serves two purposes. It first makes it a little bit more colorful and a little bit more happy making, but then it also keeps it from, keeps the marker from bleeding. As I mentioned, different markers bleed differently. All of them will bleed if you just write with them on straight wood. So the paint kind of provides a barrier to keep that, the marker from going into the grain of the wood. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I am just going to paint this side of my pin, my clothespin, purple. Now painting clothespins can be a little bit tricky because there are lots of nooks and crannies, and it's kind of hard to hold them and paint them at the same time. The secret that I have found is that if you paint a couple light layers of paint, you will be better off. So I am going to paint everything here that I can paint without getting my fingers too messy, and I am painting lightly just to kind of get a base coat on there. And now you can see I'm kind of pushing in here to get the paint inside the clothespin. You just have to work with it. You have to figure out the best way to get your paintbrush in. I will say that I think these clothespins look the best if they're fully painted. So really do try to get all of the little nooks and crannies. You'll have to do a couple different coats, but that's okay. It will totally be worth it. All right, and if you're painting lightly, the coats won't take very long to dry. So you can kind of start on one, and then you can move to another one, and then by the time you get finished with the second one, maybe your first one will already be dry. All right, so I'm just kind of moving things around here. I'm not too worried about getting painty. If you are, you won't move quite as quickly as I am. It's no big deal to get painty though, right? You just wash it right off, as long as it's just on your hands, of course. All right, so I have that kind of done. I think I'm going to try to open it here, and I'm going to put just a very, very light layer of paint in here on the inside. So this works pretty well if you paint it very lightly. The one thing you really want to not do here is get a lot of gloppy paint here in between the mouth portions of the clothespin, because if you get it really gloopy, then you might paint it together and you might have a problem getting it open again. So just go really light, and then, take a final pass with a relatively dry paintbrush and go over that to make sure you don't have any globs. All right, and then I see where my fingers were there. I'm kind of leaving fingerprints. I think that's probably about as good as I can get it for now. So I am going to move on to my next clothespin and let this one dry a little bit. So I'm going to be using that paintbrush again, so I'm not putting it in my water yet. And now I'm going to paint this clothespin blue. So I'm just doing the same thing that I did with the purple ones, just kind of going over all of the portions that I can. And I realized on the purple one it would have been easier for me to have painted the inside if I had painted it first. So I am going to do that now. That way I won't maybe get my fingers so painty. But again, it doesn't really bother me to get my fingers painty. It just washes all off. All right, so I am painting here inside, and again, I'm trying to make sure that there are no glops, big dollops of paint inside there. I'm trying to make sure that that is a very thin layer there. All right, now I'm closing it, and now I'm going to paint the rest. Now it's up to you if you decide to paint over the wire portion of the clothespin. I always do. I think that's just easier. But if you wanted to work at it really carefully, you could definitely go around those wire portions. But I think it looks just as good with colored wire. I don't worry too much about that. I am just trying to make sure, though, that I'm getting all of the wood portions covered. So here I go. I'm just turning it. It's a little bit awkward at times. No big deal. We just roll with it, right? We roll with what life throws at us. All right, so now I'm trying to get inside there. It's very easy to miss portions. But of course, if you're doing 2 layers, that's no big deal, because when you come back, you will catch those portions that you missed. But I do try to still get all of the portions on the first layer, at least as much as I can, because that way, if I miss it on the second one, there's already still paint there. I don't know. It's just one of those things that, the more you can do, the more you should do to catch all of those issues before they become issues, right? All right. Oh, whoops. I just put that through my paint. Good thing I have my paper towels here, so I can just wipe that off, right? All right, so now I actually think I'm going to paint one more. My purple one I think is pretty dry, but I am just going to do one more just so that I have 3 to do. That'll give me a little bit more of a chance to be able to paint some fun patterns. Now I'm going to go to the very first one that I painted, and I am first going to pop it open just in case the paint was drying too well there in between. So I popped it open so I know that it'll open. And now I am going to do a second coat here all over this clothespin. So you can see the second coat covers much better. I wonder, I don't know if you can see it, I can actually tell that the purple paint doesn't cover as well as the blue paint did. So you will find that too, probably, that different colors of paint cover better. They may be a different brand of paint. It may just be that the color covers better. You just kind of learn that different paints sometimes cover differently. And that's no big deal. You just figure out how that works and work with it, right? Okay, so now I have painted the inside of that again. I'm trying to paint over here over my fingerprints. And I am almost done with this one. Now, I want to tell you that I think that it's important. I know I've been telling you to paint lightly, paint a light coat, and that's true, and I think that that's a good thing. It'll keep your clothespin from becoming gloppy, and it will also help it to dry faster. But there's one place that I want you to put a little bit of extra paint on as you're painting your second layer, and that is right here where you are going to be writing your message. So that's the back part behind that, that wire piece. Paint that just a little bit more solidly, just because again we're talking about the way that the marker bleeds into the wood grain, and if you paint that a little bit more solidly, it's less likely to bleed. It's just easier to read. It's not a big deal even if it bleeds. It's just a little easier to read if it doesn't. All right, so now I am going to go to the second clothespin that I painted, and I am going to give it a second coat. Okay, so now I have painted those solidly, but as I mentioned, I also wanted to paint some designs on these. So now I have my white out here, and I have a small little brush, and I am going to paint some polka dots on here. Now the polka dots, or the design that you do, absolutely does not need to be inside any of the clothespin areas. I mean, it could be if you wanted. But this makes it, I think, even a little easier to paint because you don't have to worry about holding it or picking it up. And, you know, in my situation, I actually think that I am just going to paint the polka dots on the one side where the little message will be. So I don't even need to pick it up. This makes it super easy. So I'm painting some fun little white polka dots here. And because the white is so light, I will definitely be able to write across the polka dots, no problem. They'll still be able to read my message. I think on this blue one, I'm going to paint some stripes. I love stripes. I don't know, they're just, why do I love stripes? I don't know. It seems a little weird to say that they're happy making, but kind of seems like they are. All right, so I am just painting down the clothespin. Of course, you can paint any design that you want. You could leave them, you know, just the solid color. Those are just happy too. All right, let's see. What should I do on this last one? Maybe I'll do bigger polka dots, like big circles. Big is relative, of course, because, you know, on a clothespin, nothing can be very big, but they're definitely bigger than my first polka dots, right? Okay, so I am almost done here. Now this white is going to take a little bit longer to dry because it's a little bit thicker, and that's no problem. We just want to definitely allow for that time to dry. You do not want to drag your marker through wet paint. The marker won't write, and then also you may actually end up ruining your marker. So I am going to wait right now. Actually, I'm going to go take these up to my bathroom and blow dry them, so you can do that too if you're impatient like I am. Or you can just wait for them to dry. But I am going to meet you back here with 3 dry clothespins, and then we will finish our craft. So I will see you soon. All right, I am back now, and I have 3 dry clothespins, and now I just have the final step of writing on the kind message. So I am going to take my Sharpie marker, which is very fine tipped, and I am going to write some kind words. So I think on this one, I am going to write, you are special. I would love to find this attached to me when I got home after a long day, wouldn't you? Wouldn't that just make your day? All right, let's see. This one, I'm going to write you are amazing. And if you're struggling to find ideas with what to say on these, I have listed below this video several things that you could use. If you're just kind of struggling, you want to tell people that they're really cool, but you don't know exactly how to say it, you can definitely use any of those phrases down there that if you would like. All right, and then on this final one, I am going to write, you are loved. Just think of what you would like to be told, and then you can include that on this too. But I think that this is such a cool thing that you are going to be able to create so that you can spread some kindness and some happiness around the world. Just put yourself in the shoes of the people who receive these and understand just how cool this is. It's not a very hard or complex or expensive craft, but I'm sure that it would just totally make someone's day. If you have had a chance to make these, I would love to see pictures of yours. Please ask a grown-up to take a picture of yours and put that picture on our Facebook site. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for spreading some kindness and some love around the world. I hope you've had as much fun as I have. I look forward to seeing you next week. We're going to be talking about a fun film, so I can't wait to do that with you. Pop some popcorn. I'll see you next Friday. Until then, thanks so much for joining me for this one. Thanks for kidding around with me. I will see you next time.